Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Outer Rim Ramble with myself, the Outlaw, Adam Neeson, joined as always by the Jedi Knight, Danny Brown. How are you, my friend?
I am good. I am full
Mm,
and of love and food. I've
mm.
just made a lovely you keep seeing on TikToks, these like deconstructed burgers, like burger bowls and burger wraps. So we made burger bowls yesterday and we still had like a load of leftover seasoned mince. So we like cut everything up that we put in a burger bowl, but then I put it all into a wrap and then I air fried that wrap and I had that before we came on and top tier dinner, I must
Mm.
say. What about yourself? What do you have for dinner, Adam?
Oh, I had a kebab.
Of course. What's your go-to kebab? What's your kebab order?
A doner kebab with house sauce,
Hmm.
which is often reserved for 3 a.m. drunken nights.
Yeah.
But I'm a man of finer taste. I like them. 5
I
p.m.
like
knocking on the door.
sober.
Yes.
You know what? The strangest thing, house sauce store, I'm going on a ramble, but guess what? We do have a guest. We'll get to him. We'll find out what he had for dinner too. Well, lunch, probably where he is. But was in Liverpool one time and went to a kebab shop and was like, "Oh, can I get mixed meat kebab on chips?" And they're like, "What sauce do you want, lad?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll have a house sauce." And they're like, "What's that?" And I was like, "You don't have house sauce?" And they're like, "No, what's house sauce?" And I was like, "To be fair, every kebab shop in Northern Ireland has its own house sauce, like its own type of sauce."
Mm.
But yeah, England don't do it. So I was just like, just give me a chili mayo. It'll be
Yeah.
fine. It's
It,
basically the same thing. Yeah.
it doesn't cut the mustard. Or,
No. Well, sometimes some house sauces have mustard in,
yeah, they
but
cut it into
yeah, exactly. But yeah, as we mentioned there, we have a guest.
it. Yes. Um, Joining us today, very special writer of such comic books as the latest Boba Fett, Red, no, Black, White, and Red. Um, that's a title that I always get confused with. The underrated Marvel Midnight Suns, for Image Comics Haunted Girl, and recently Predator Badland, the tie-in, which we'll hopefully get talking about. But then for Star Wars, you also have the Bounty Hunter series and the Jango Fett miniseries, as well as the Galaxy's Edge and Halcyon uh,
Legacy.
Legacy, with Mr. Will Slady, who was on with us before. Joining us today is Ethan Sachs. Ethan, thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Oh, good.
Thank you for having me here.
What did you have for your lunch, sir?
Oh, what did I have for lunch? It's not that exciting. I had cereal.
Oh,
What type of cereal?
But that being said, I just came back from a comic book convention in Columbus, Ohio,
mm,
which is the Paris of Ohio, Paris, Texas of
mm,
Ohio. But yeah, so I've sort of filled my maw with a lot of barbecue and pizza and
Nice.
mm.
burgers. So it's kind of like a detox day.
Yeah, that's fair. You know what? One of my dreams is I haven't been to America yet, but I want to do like all the barbecue smokehouses and stuff like that. So I
Mhm.
watch shows just for like those barbecue cooking programs. There was one on Netflix not too long ago, and I just watched that the whole thing just drooling.
Mm.
So it's one of
I
my
can't
dreams.
watch food shows because it's just like torture. It's like
Yeah,
if you can't eat it, it's
yeah.
and I'm not savvy enough to be able to replicate that.
I try my best. I try my best. What cereal did you have?
Oh, well, it was like I threw in some blueberries and then some Cheerios and rice checks and then a bunch of nuts and yeah, just kind of made it as
That
exciting
sounds
as possible.
it sounds pretty good. It's not you didn't just take it from a box and pour in a bowl.
No,
You
it's a
kind of
work from
added
home
to it.
day,
So
so and my wife doesn't eat lunch, so it's just
ah,
me with cereal.
you're just mixing all your bits.
Sometimes that's what's required in the morning. Like I like a nice, granola. Just shove some chocolate in it just to spice it up.
Mm. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and just to be clear, that like my normal diet is like pizza and chicken wings and things like that. So this is not, you caught me on an off day. I don't want people out there to think,
Yeah.
that I'm foraging for nuts and berries in the forest or
You,
something.
you needed
I don't live near the
substantial
forest.
fiber.
Yeah.
Much needed fiber. But anyway,
But thank you for joining us, Ethan. You are one of my favorite writers
well,
working at the
thank you
minute,
very much.
and especially I picked up Boba Fett, Black, White, and Red, and read the first issue because usually that series I've waited until it's collected. But
Mhm.
I was like, it's Boba Fett, and you're right, and I know you're writing from the Bounty Hunter series with Boba. So I picked it up and I was just blown away. I think it's like some of your best work.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Like the cool thing about this series, which I really love, because a lot of the black, white, and reds is like, and I'm doing one for different unrelated character that hasn't been announced, but normally it's like three short stories per issue from different creative teams. And in this one, what was cool is these are 30-page stories, which is like 50% more with each issue being a different creative team. And so like what Benjamin Percy did with the first one and like Alyssa Wong is doing the last one and I'm drawing a blank on who did the second one, but it was also incredible. So just the chance to be Ringo in that super group, that no offense to Ringo. It was kind of cool.
and especially with those books, like whenever they come out in trade paperback, they make the oversized version to kind of showcase the art. Do you know if that's going to be the case with this as well?
I know nothing. I'm so far downstream from those decisions that I'm assuming also like they'll eventually have an omnibus for my run on Star Wars Bounty Hunter since they've sort of collected the rest of that era of comics, but I don't even know that, so
Yeah.
for sure. So who knows?
Let's sort of jump into Bounty Hunters. I love that series. I love Lance, sort of taken from the classic era of the Star Wars comic books, and sort of you. This is not no pun intended, fleshed him out. Um, but in that book, you did something that I was like, hell yeah! You introduced the Inferno Squad from
Mhm.
Battlefront 2. Was that a you idea, or did that come from higher up?
No, it was a me idea. I think one of the most liberating things about working on a series like Bounty Hunters is, you know, if you're working on like the main flagship Star Wars title or Darth Vader or something like these characters, we know so much about them and they have very strict guardrails because, like these comics were set in the era between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And so like, you know, no one's going to kill off Luke or like there's certain things you obviously can't do because he has to be around or they have to be around Return of the Jedi. And for the most part, some of these, we could have put these characters in jeopardy, and the readers are not 100% sure. Like we know Bosk is around for Return of the Jedi. For most of the run, we didn't know if Boba Fett. Well, we knew Boba Fett was around for Return of the Jedi, but I would say like especially some of those characters that either we co that Paolo Villanelli and I co-created or Valance, like who knows? So there was this kind of blank slate that we could do what we wanted for the most part, with there was very little pushback or anything like that. So it's kind of very freeing. Um, I know it's not an answer to any question. Sorry, sort of went off the yeah.
But with the Inferno Squad, were you a big player of Battlefront 2?
No, no, I really love I actually don't play video games for the most part because I used to be kind of addicted, and then my daughter was born and I literally gave it up cold turkey. I mean, I have some stuff on my phone or whatever, but I can't, I go to sometimes a friend's house and I'll play or whatever. But if I own a console, I can't write, I would not be able to write comic books because I just like could sit down and be 9 hours later, you know?
Mhm.
So I'm actually like deliberately not a gamer, but that said, I love watching the videos of other people sometimes, and I have some good friends who were into it, and so I reached out to like one of the writers of the game, Mitch, and like got a lot of the lore. I watched like the full gameplay. I really liked the characters. I love these characters that sort of kind of are in that gray area between good and evil, and that's like a lot of what the bounty hunters are, so that was kind of a fun little arc to be able to do.
And with the Bounty Hunters, you got your sort of start writing a spec script for Greedo, is that right?
Yep, that's right. So my not so secret origin story is that I was a journalist for 20 years at the New York Daily News, which is one of the large newspapers in New York. And I sort of, as a young reporter, kind of nudged my way in to write comic books stories because no one else thought much of them, but it just so happened to be around 2001, 2002 when a lot of the sort of the comic book movies were sort of coming to the forefront of pop culture. So it was just like a really good time for that. So um, I like one of my cover stories. But my first ever cover story for the entertainment section was the young guns who are saving Marvel from bankruptcy, Joe Quesada and Bill Jemas. So like that's was before the first Spider-Man came out, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and so that's how, perfect timing it was for me. So I ended up actually becoming friends with Joe Quesada over those years. And in 2016, every May the 4th, I like to do a little Star Wars story for the website, celebrating it as the, holiday, international holiday it should be. And that particular year, I had interviewed Paul Blake, who played Greedo, and we were joking about because I'm old enough that I saw the original Star Wars in theaters, and so we're joking about the whole who shot first. And he was so funny. He was talking about Greedo's myopic eyes, and and that how he should have been a flower arranger, and all this kind of stuff that was just absolutely hilarious. But then I kept thinking, because I'm a big movie fan, that there would be a cool Rashomon-like story in the murder investigation, like every witness not telling the same story. And I could not get that idea out of my head. So one day I'm at a baseball game with Joe, who was not editor-in-chief anymore. He was chief creative officer at Marvel at the time. And I was like, Joe, I have this idea. I can't get out of my head. Do you mind if I write a spec script? If it's published, like I'll be transparent because I'm a reporter, donate the money to charity, whatever. I just want to get this down on paper. I cannot stop thinking about it. And it was like, sure, whatever. Not enthusiastic at all. Um, and I had never written a comic script, but I'd read a million of them. And so I uh, kind of reverse engineered what I liked about format or pacing or whatever. I reached out to Lucasfilm because at that time, I was the movie editor for the paper. And basically talked to Pablo Hidalgo on Story Group what I could and couldn't do, and they were like adamant that the continuity is that Greedo shot first and somehow missed from this side of the table. So I can't contradict that per se, but so I'm working within all of this. I wrote up a script, sent it into the ether, and didn't hear anything for weeks. My wife's Japanese, so we go visit the in-laws in Japan. We come back, plane lands September 7th, 2016. Turn my phone back on, and I see an email. And um, I won't use the profanity, but the subject line was F Greedo. And yeah, so I was like, wow, he really must have hated this script. But the gist of it was like, F Greedo, you can actually write comics, and I've known you for almost 20 or for whatever it was, 15 years. And I'm kind of angry that like we haven't tried this before. So that was actually like the first domino. Marvel loved the script. They sent it to Lucasfilm for consideration to publish for May 2017, like for the 40th anniversary, is like part of what they were going to do. And Lucasfilm politely declined. But that was like my first step into a wider world or larger world. Yeah.
And just already from what you said, I can gather that you are a pretty big Star Wars fan. You know, you said you've seen the originals in the cinema.
Yeah.
You were speaking with Paul Blake about Greedo and all that. So what is your Star Wars origin story?
So I'm so old that I saw the movie in the theater as a 4-year-old, and that memory is so vivid in my head. Like I can close my eyes, and my father, who passed away in 1995, I can still hear his voice next to me because he had seen it before me, and then he brought me because in his words, like to see, make sure it was okay to bring me, kind of thing, doing a test run. So I remember the Star Destroyer going overhead and the music and turning to see my father smiling at me and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like a powerful memory. And like back then you didn't have another blockbuster coming a week later, or the toys came out. I remember getting all the action figures. Um, it was my, even more than superhero comics, which were always also part of my life, but that was my main pop culture touchstone. And pretty much I never grew out of it.
Mm.
So, and I got to introduce my daughter to it. Like her favorite character is Ahsoka from the Clone Wars and Rebels. So like it's interesting seeing the next generation kind of fall in love with it, but slightly differently than I did.
And in terms of the classic bounty hunters, we that lineup in Empire Strikes Back is such a striking scene visually, and in terms of like, oh, what are these guys all about? And now you're kind of getting to write for a lot of those guys that we see in that lineup. Who's your favorite bounty hunter to write for, or what, or even who's just your favorite bounty hunter in general?
It's really hard for me to say. Going in, I loved Bosk.
Mhm.
I loved his weird look. I was also a fan of Land of the Lost as a kid in the 70s, and he has that sort of slee stack look to him, but doesn't even bother wearing shoes, you know? Uh, but what I loved about writing for him is like all the other bounty hunters were neurotic in some way or battling their own like PTSD or weird stuff. But he was like this force of like perfect self-esteem. Like it just never crossed his mind that anything he would do is like completely wrong or just I loved him going in. I kind of fell in love with Valance. Not a character I liked at all from the original Star Wars comics. I kind of thought he was a bit of a jerk to droids in particular and kind of like really cranky. That's just not a very redeeming character. And yeah, I guess he had the heroic sacrifice. I don't know how much viewers are familiar with his arc from the original Marvel comics, but he was a character that was created. He was named after Liberty Valance, like as in Who Shot the movie. And he was a cyborg and a lot of people in the modern era say, oh, he looks like a ripoff of the Terminator, but he predates the Terminator by 6 years. So anyway, I when they approached me, Mark Paniccia, the editor of the Star Wars line, there were like sort of two things that they wanted to do. CB, the editor-in-chief of Marvel, wanted to do um, to have the classic bounty hunters from the bridge of the Star Destroyer and Empire, and Mark really wanted the POV, the point of view character to be Valance, and there was a practical reason for that because it was a Marvel created character, we'd have a lot more freedom with what we could and couldn't do. So if he was the main character, you know, we would have the others, but that would be sort of a an easier lift. But the originally he approached me and he was like, I want to do the Punisher in space. And I did not, I kind of don't love those kind of characters because I like characters that are like a little flawed and struggle a lot more just to make it from panel one to panel six to survive. You know, I don't love the characters. Like, I don't know that I could ever write Batman because he's always three steps ahead of everybody. You never really feel like he's going to lose a fight. And I really like the characters, with the possible exception of Boba Fett, who usually does win the fights. Um, I like the characters that they're struggling to win. You know, that's what I like. That's the stories I like to tell.
Mhm.
So I kind of I was going through a lot with my daughter. She was hospitalized at the time, and I wanted to like the idea of a soldier who was like severely wounded and dealing with PTSD and like fix himself physically, but trying to fix himself inside. That was what resonated with me, and so that was the story I pitched, and to show you how much freedom we had on that title, like they said yes. So that's sort of what Bounty Hunters became.
Do you feel like a proud father now for Fallon's that he's succeeded on to the main Star Wars title now?
Yeah, I do. And I love Alex Segura, so he's a good friend of mine. So it's kind of cool. It's always really and also I inherited Valance from someone else, so I did not create Valance. But some characters like Tonga and Losha, another bounty hunter, bunch of bounty hunters in the series, when I saw Mark Guggenheim write them or write her Tonga in Han Solo and Chewbacca, like that was so cool for me because it's like my babies are like going off. It's not unlike sending your kid to university, It's
Yeah.
like there was pride in that. So yeah, and also that they sort of are outlasting just that first series. So yeah, I love it. I yeah, and it also comics. believe it or not, like we're all, most of us are all like freelancers and many of us hang out together and stuff. So you're kind of rooting for them too. And so it's kind of like I legitimately love to see these characters written by my very talented friends. So it's
Is
cool
there
all around.
much collaboration whenever another writer kind of takes on a character? Like, would they reach out to you and say, like, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing this with this character. Do you think that's sort of in keeping with what you've done already?" Or is there times where they're just like, "We're just going for it," you know?
I think like a lot of times, just for practical reasons, there can't be too much because, they have to kind of run with timelines. They can't always talk about what they're doing. But in a lot of cases, there is. Like Alex asked me a few questions about Valence, and for that main sort of golden age of those four books being set in the same era, that 2020 to whatever it was, 2023, 24, Star Wars, Darth Vader, Bounty Hunters, Aphra, we had weekly Zoom meetings. And so that's why I think those events are so tight, like War of the Bounty Hunters, Crimson Dawn, like all of that. It was Dark Droids, like they were very planned, and we were sort of led by Charles, and Charles Soule, and he's such a collaborative guy. So it's like, okay, this is sort of the main spine of the story, but what do you want to do with your characters? How can we make sure everyone, it's like a big jazz improvisational band, and everyone gets their solos kind of thing. So it was really an amazing process, and it's unlike anything I've had since. Just, practically I'm usually at this very keyboard, um, working in solitary confinement for most of the time. So having that collaboration was something truly special. And then for the Bounty Hunters 42, which was the last issue on my run, I wanted to tie up some things. And Mark Guggenheim had introduced uh, some story sort of threads in his Han Solo run where Jabba was trying to find this, memory core of a droid, and also this giant sort of mega droid that was introduced in his one of his Yoda issues. So I met him for coffee in New York, and we just, I was like, "Can you tell me all about like what these things are and like all this kind of stuff?" And so that ended up being a big help for I wanted to give Valance a win because the other thing too is I wanted to give, when you start with a ongoing series, you have no idea how long you get. And I always knew the last image I wanted to have, which was him sort of reaching out for somebody, because like he is finally ready to kind of move on. And so that was kind of special for me. Uh, but I also wanted to give him a win because I treated him like garbage the entire run, like ripped out his heart, ripped out arms, psychologically tortured him. He thought the love of his life had died, and all this kind of stuff. So it was important to me to give him a win. And the other thing was, since his friend is Han Solo, and Han Solo was at Jabba's, and it became apparent that Valence's personality was he wasn't going to stop trying to help his friend. So there had to be something he did to help in some way for him to back off and trust, Leia, Luke and company to rescue him. So yeah, so it was kind of a lot of collaboration goes into these things, and also the editors, led by Mark Paniccia, Mikey Basso, Tom Groneman before him. Like it was just like a really a wonderful team that like were helpful and also supportive, but also made sure everything got done. I was really lucky. I had one artist for the vast majority of those issues in Paolo Villanelli. So once you have an artist that you're working together that long, like you can really jam on stuff. As an example, I would secretly have Zoom meetings with him because normally you go through the editors for things. I was like, what is the single character that you want to work with? And he's like, I love Darth Vader. So then we had that whole thing with Darth Vader pressing Valance into service and all this kind of stuff, just so that he could get to draw Vader and have a Vader versus Valance fight that ended almost as badly for Valance as the one in the original Marvel run, where in that case Valance died. But um, yeah,
Is there a character when you're doing those crossovers, when you're doing like Crimson Reign and stuff, Afra comes into the book or stuff like that, do you get a feel for that character and think, I would like to take a crack at that character
Oh
on a
yeah.
long term?
I mean, I try not to get too emotionally attached to the idea of anyone because, sometimes you're not really in control of who you can and can't tell stories. But that being said, getting to write Django for those two issues in flashbacks, I was like, I really love the difference between Django and Boba Fett because they look so similar. They have the same toys, basically, same ship, and they're very similar in that way. But one is more of a sort of swashbuckling, fun character, and one is a darker character. Because he's lived with this void of this loss of his father, and then, he's a much angrier, darker character, I think, than Django. So I really love that dynamic, and I was like, I want to tell, I want to tell a Django story and then maybe a Boba Fett story. So that was a pitch that I brought to them, the Django one, with an ending that set up a possible sequel in 2 years, hopefully when it's the 25th anniversary. So yeah.
Yeah, your Django book, it is one of those books. I'm like, I would like more of this. This is this is one of these books because it is, like you say, it is more fun and sort of that era of Star Wars we don't really get to see that much. That it is something I would like to see more of and more of your version of him because, like you say, the difference between him and Boba is sort of night and day. Um, but then there's also that sort of later in life Boba that you kind of get with the Book of Boba Fett. That is sort of a man who's kind of come to terms and found a family. Would there be any interest in sort of, I don't know if they want to delve more into that, but if they came to you with, oh, we're going to do Book of Boba Fett era, would you like to, one, write that Boba, and two, how excited would you be to write the Moped Gang?
Yeah, well, a little less on the latter, to be honest. But no, I mean, I actually really liked Book of Boba Fett. And I think what I love about Boba Fett is you have these different eras where he's grown into different people, basically. Like you have the angry young, really talkative, brash kid who's finding his way by himself. He has this tremendous, I lost my father at 22 years old, and that was rough. Imagine at that age, imagine seeing that. Imagine, then in this very, very hard, in this galaxy where it's hard to survive under the best of conditions, like you have to make your own way. And then he has the shadow over him to live up to the legacy of that armor, right? Because his father at his peak was the best. And then later, in that sort of original trilogy era, he arguably surpassed his father, right? In terms of legacy. So like I just love those different eras. I would love to one day, I mean, actually my Boba Fett Black, White, and Red, I have a story that's sort of set in two of those eras. So I really dig um that about him. He's not a static character at all.
Is there any Star Wars character that you've yet to write for that you would love to, or even an era, or is there anything you would like to do in Star Wars that you've not got to do yet?
I mean, I can say that there is a character I would have answered yes to, but I am doing something with them now, but it has
Mm,
not been announced.
okay.
Actually, there's two characters that fall in that category for two separate things that I can't talk about. So, one that I have not written, I don't think I've written. I love Wedge Antilles,
Mm,
Nice.
so I wouldn't
Hmm.
mind one day doing something with him. Uh, because when I was little, this is how warped a child I was. When we were in the playground and everyone's playing Star Wars, everyone wanted to be Han Solo or Luke, and I pretend I would be Wedge.
yeah.
Nice.
There
Yeah.
was no competition for that role at
Hmm.
all. But what I loved about him is he always knows when to leave,
Mhm.
Mm.
right? Like
Hmm.
he survived. He's the equivalent, not to mix our big franchise or big franchises, but he's almost like he would be a red shirt in Star Trek, but he has the sense to like, whoop, there's a scratch on the paint job of this X-Wing. I got to get out of here. Sorry. and he
Mhm.
flies off and he survives, and in Return of the Jedi, he's like just a little bit ahead of the Falcon. He has no issue. He's like out way before the Falcon cuts it close, but he's like out. He knows exactly when to leave, and that's why he's survived
Yeah.
all this time.
I would like I would I would like a Wedge Antilles story where he just conveniently leaves at the right moments. Like iconic moments from the Star Wars movies, and it's just him dipping out before and kicks off.
It'd be funny if like it's a mini series, a Wedge Antilles mini series, and then he just leaves like two-thirds of the way through, and the rest supporting cast has to like solve
Yeah,
everything for him.
deal with all. Yeah, it's just like where's Wedge
Yeah.
gone? He's dipped out again.
Where'd he go?
Yeah.
I would like Wedge to be the Poochie of Star Wars. When he's not on screen, everybody should say, "Where's Wedge?" You said that have been a journalist. That's your other career. Um, would you, with the rise of like Andor, and that sort of Star Wars has always been political, but it seems with Andor, people have twigged on that Star Wars is political for some reason. Has it ever sort of crossed your mind to sort of bring that journalism aspect into the Star Wars universe, sort of like maybe create a character around that?
It has. I've done a like there's been a little bit in the Django series. I just like I find that just the way a lot of I'm mainly involved in the comics. I'm not I don't know except for maybe a very side character. I don't think I could introduce a new character that could carry a book. It's something I'm interested in, and certainly like I think I would love to do something in the Marvel or DC universe with those iconic newspapers in the same way that they did Gotham Central for DC, focused on the police of Gotham. I'm a big believer in the importance of journalism. Uh, not to out my political views in my country, but I kind of wish uh, maybe some of the larger journalism outlets had done a better job of reporting you know, before we got sort of down this path.
Mhm.
But I'm a big believer in the importance of journalism in a democracy. That said, most of what I wrote was like film stories. I did do some news, but yeah. So um, I would love to do something with it one day. But to plug something someone else is doing, Benjamin Percy is writing this incredible saga called The End Times, and it's literally like 12 issues of a newspaper set during the apocalypse, and he's telling the story through these like newspaper. It's pretty clever. Yeah.
Mm.
That sounds cool.
In the After book, I remember there was the for the Empire, there was the Ministry of Press, basically. And I always thought that would be such an interesting, like, think of like the thick of it, where you have like the Emperor's spin doctors.
Hmm.
I would always that sort of not in a comic, like in a comedic way, but like sort of like because people think the Emperor was just deformed and that's why he doesn't show up. They don't realize that he's a big evil man. But I would love to see like the inner workings of people trying to spin the press to make the Emperor and
Yeah.
Vader look good to people.
I don't think they have to do much spinning because they own the whole
Well,
apparatus.
Mhm.
They pretty much, yeah. But I would, maybe one day. I don't know how realistic it is though right now. It's just hard to deviate that far from like at least a known character.
yeah, yeah. Like we said at the start, Will Slaney has been on, and we talked about your Galaxy's Edge book. How fun was that to write, and like how involved were you in the actual park itself? I'm sure you weren't there putting plaster up, but how involved
I
were
have a
you?
funny I have a funny story, but I'm looking for my trade so I can
Oh.
just do a little show and tell. Fortunately, it's right by my desk. So Will has started talking to me again, by the way, after our runs. Um, because one of the first things, because this was coming out before the park opened,
Uh-huh.
and it was still being built. We had to do all, it was like had to jump through all these hoops to get this access to the top secret creative Bible, which was amazing. 168 pages of concept art and character bios and schematics and maps. And I was like, you know what? what we're going to do is on the first page turn, have a two-page spread that shows the entire park. And he was, he used the word that was in the subject line of the Greedo email. And like, what are you doing? Like, if we get this wrong, people are going to know because this place exists. It's not like you're making up a planet. And they'll have their book as they're walking through the park. So it'll be pretty, yeah. So it was, but I was like, this is the first look that people will get of it. And I think this is our opportunity, whatever. So we did it. And sure enough, he had to like erase some things and change some things because they kept, it wasn't like a static process or whatever. But he is talking to me again. That's the good news. My real favorite story about the making of this, though, is this is sort of a heist story with some items that are in Doc Ondor's Den of Antiquities, the store, which anyone who has visited or seen YouTube videos, it's a really cool store where they have all these items, helmets, creature heads, plot like MacGuffins from movies on the wall, and literally hundreds. And so most of the ones in this story were actually there. And one of them, so there was like the Black Sword, the baby Sarlacc, all these kind of things. But there was one that Will and I created for the book, which was this statue,
Mhm.
loosely inspired by St. George and the Dragon. And it's a kyber crystal statue, but it did not exist. And so when this comes out, people were tweeting at me, going like, "Oh, I found the Black Sword, found the baby Sarlacc, found the lightsaber, whatever. Where is the statue?" And I was like, I didn't know how to respond. I email the Marvel publicist and I was like, what should I say? They're like, don't say anything. We don't want to telegraph our mistake or anything like that. I don't know why I didn't think people were going to be looking for everything. I just thought it looked cool. Um, so we don't say anything. And then like a few, maybe 2 months later, somebody tweets like, I found it. And sure enough, I'm sorry, this is show and tell, so I'm looking for the photo. Um, some prop maker, who probably was cursing my name in a similar way to Will, using similar wording, he, basically had to make it. And so I don't know if you can see this. Can you see in the top?
Oh, yeah,
Oh yeah.
the glowing green
Yeah,
thing.
right there.
Class.
So it
So
now it
cool.
does exist. So now if I had kept my mouth shut now, no one would know. They'd think like, wow, this person is working on so many levels he's plotted. Yeah.
That's unreal. That's fantastic. When we were talking to Will, he mentioned how when he went to visit Galaxy's Edge, when he's walking through Batuu, and he said one of the first things he seen was a kid holding the
Yeah.
comic and like looking at the comic and looking up and seeing that world. And he was like, in the story, there would be a scene where there was like a lightsaber scorched in the wall, and then going there and seeing that scorched in the wall.
Yeah.
Like, how cool was that for you as someone who was writing this narrative within that world that was being built?
It's pretty cool because there are these moments most of the time you're writing, or in Will's case, drawing at home in isolation, communicating with editors and stuff via email. Um, and so it's like you don't always know who's reading, how it makes them feel. I go to conventions, and so sometimes I get like, individual people telling me, but that's like one of those moments where it's like you're honored to be a small part of this mythos that you have loved. I've loved since I was 4, and to be a small part of that and know that some of this is going to outlive me is pretty amazing.
When you're typing Hondo and Akka's dialogue, are you also doing the voice in your head? Because I would.
Yeah. Yes. I I I'm gonna this is sort of embarrassing, but I'm gonna say this publicly. So I'm gonna turn this around so you can see like my desk. I have all these Star Wars things and Marvel things. And so sometimes what I'll do is I will have a character, like I'm just trying to see what I can grab without falling, a bit like Django. Okay. So I'll be thinking of the fights, and I'll be doing like, just sort of, research. Um, yeah, so like I'll be sort of playing around with them a little bit, just sort of thinking how that would work because that helps me think, you know.
Yeah.
So, or here's a space battle with the Halcyon,
Mhm.
so things like that. So yeah, the answer is yes. I always have those voices in my head.
Is that not what Rodriguez did for Book of Boba Fett? Was that not his whole pitch? Was like, or no, for The Mandalorian, his episode of The Mandalorian, didn't he storyboard it with toys? He basically went out in his
Yeah,
garden and filmed with a
yeah.
load of toys. So I mean, you're taking from, great directors there, you're not?
Is just to be that nerd, is that Jango Fett figure you guys showed us the latest Black Series figure?
It
Hell
is.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I don't remember which iteration though. I think yeah, it is Black Series.
Yeah.
Most of these are. I'm not really a collector. I just get the ones that I've written that I really am happy about.
Mhm. Are you hoping that they release a Valance figure at some point?
I am. My dream would also be to do something with for them to do something with Tonga because that
Mm,
was like a character I really, really loved
yeah.
co-creating and writing.
That was we could sneak her into some sort of animated show. That would
Mm,
Yeah, I
let's get
mean
her
the
in there.
great thing about it is they exist in the same, you know, universe as the live action as the animated, so that there's nothing stopping eventually from
Mhm,
something happening,
mhm.
you know.
And sort of stepping away from Star Wars, you worked on an Image comic with your daughter,
Yep.
the Hunted Girl.
Yes.
How did you find working with your daughter on that? And sort of how did it come together?
So there's sort of a bittersweet story, but happy ending to that one. While I was writing Galaxy's Edge, actually, my daughter was hospitalized after a suicide attempt and battled depression. She was 15 at the time, and I was actually working on Galaxy's Edge from a hospital cafeteria between visiting hours. So like I had my laptop, and I was obviously distracted. So I want to come up with a story that would inspire her and others to maybe, to keep living and seek help or, know that they're not alone, that kind of thing. And I wrote down a line in a notebook, the fate of all life on earth rests with a girl who doesn't know if she wants to live. From that line, I approached an artist I work with who's good, just awesome artist named Marco Lorenzana. We started to work on a pitch and we we had a publisher sniffing around in February 2020. It looked like a deal was going to happen, and then March 2020 happened, and they split. So it took us long enough to get that Image deal that my daughter is already a few years later, and my daughter was kind of in a better place, like therapy, medication, that kind of stuff. So I asked her if she wanted to do it with me because like she would give that authenticity. So the result was a Haunted Girl. It came out in 4 issues and then into a trade. It's very much like a YA supernatural apocalyptic story about a chosen one, kind of like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or Harry Potter, or Luke. But somebody who's a teenage girl fresh out of the hospital finds out she's the only one who can prevent a supernatural apocalypse, and she has to find the to save everyone she loves, she has to, persevere. I mean, I'm biased, but I think it came out pretty well. We teamed up with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and the American Psychiatric Association, so we had some guides in the back of the book. We won some awards. AFSP, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, their 2025 Lifesaver Award. We were in like a lot of major U.S. And Canadian media, CBS News, People Magazine, and she was in the face of a nationwide public service announcement. So all great stuff. There's some talk about a potential TV series. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not, but um, yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of her.
Yeah, I think it's a really beautiful book and the story behind it. Both you and your daughter working together. It's very rare that you get to do such a thing, especially in comic books, where it is very much if it's creator owned or by a big corporation. It's very rare you get those opportunities. It's to me, Star Wars is sort of my coping mechanism with depression and suicide and stuff. So people that listen to this, they've said similar things. If they want to check out something that's not Star Wars, something that's a little bit sweeter and a little bit more uplifting, A Haunted Girl is definitely a book I recommend.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Also, to sort of sidestep from Star Wars, Adam's already mentioned you've worked recently on the Predator Badlands adaptation. You're also working on Avatar as well, some other, really big franchises. Do you have outside of Star Wars? I'm sure you love working on both of them, but like,
Yeah.
what's been sort of your favorite other big franchise project to work on?
I mean, those two, and I know that's a lame answer to not pick one of those two when I say that. But I really, really had great experiences with both. James Cameron for me was probably, outside of Star Wars because of, when I was a tween teen, Aliens, Terminator, Aliens, Terminator 2, The Abyss, True Lies, like that batting average is just incredible. And so just some movies that are just all-time classics. And the chance to like I sent in a 12-page outline for that because it's also like both those projects are part of the lore of the franchise, much like Star Wars. Like it's not a throw out a story that's just a throwaway story. So like I sent in a 12-page outline for 6 issues to be vetted by James Cameron, and I got back a 26-page document. So his notes were longer than my outline. But there's a couple of times where like there'd be something like, oh, this beat is similar to something I was thinking about doing for the first Avatar. So we should send you the test that we never shot it, but we should send you the test animation that we did. And then the next day I get test animation from the first Avatar of the same. It's like, how cool is that?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, I got to go down to to the offices, and this guy Josh Izzo, who's in charge of the sort of the franchise part of Lightstorm Entertainment, he took me and my in-laws and my daughter to on a tour of the private museum that James has in his office of like it's like a warehouse of props. And you want to know like what my probably my next biggest franchise would be?
Mhm.
I'm gonna look this up as it's turned out to be a show and tell this interview. Of course, now that I'm looking for it, it's hard to find, but I will keep talking as I yeah. So there were just to get a okay, that's cool. Like there was one scene I did, and he's like, I don't think the Navi would do it this way, and he's like, oh, I see what you're trying to do here. Okay, that's effing cool. And I was like, my God, I'm gonna cherish that comment forever.
Mhm. To have
Anytime my wife gets angry at me, I'm gonna shout, oh, well, look, James Cameron thinks I'm effing cool.
James Cameron says I'm
Uh,
cool. It's mad. Your second guest mentioned that James Cameron has said what they're doing is cool.
oh,
We
nice.
we had Brendan Wayne, the Mandalorian, on a
Oh
couple of weeks
yeah.
ago, and he was saying that Sigourney Weaver had been talking to him and said, "Oh yeah, James Cameron has said like he's seen you working and likes what you're doing." So now we've got another guest who also has James Cameron saying, "I like what you're doing." Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
And sorry, this is just in his office, did you say? This is just like,
He has like a warehouse-sized space
yeah,
like in the complex that's just his props.
that's just, he just has that hang. Do you think he ever gets inside the like mech suit? Do you
Yeah, I mean,
think?
I would. But the thing is, that's not motorized. They had like the world's strongest man at that time operating it from
Mhm.
behind, like, and Sigourney Weaver was hanging from it like a baby Bjorn, like a baby carrier.
Yeah.
So like he was the one actually walking and doing all
Hmm.
this stuff. Now
Puppeteering
it'd all
it.
be CGI. So like the fact that they're physical props from this thing is amazing. And Alien Queen was a puppet.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of I love CGI, and I got to go to Weta Digital and actually do performance capture myself for a story.
Whoa.
But there's something special about those practical effects and the problem solving. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I
sorry,
would.
that was not your question originally. Oh, yes. The so that was cool. And then the Predator Badlands one was probably the most collaborative thing I've ever done with a on these things because Dan Trachtenberg, the great director who did that movie as well as Prey and Killer of Killers, he did Zooms, and he was both very supportive and also was like, oh, here's basically the type of things we're thinking about going forward for the Yautja culture and thing like, here's how Deck would react in this situation, because he's in the mind of the character. So it was really, getting it from the source. And then the other cool thing was like he and the producers were like, "Hey, have you seen the movie yet?" I was like, "No, it's not coming out for 4 months. I don't know, how I would see the movie. I've read the script that was sent to me." And he said, "No, the movie has changed a lot since the script. We should show you the movie." And then within a day, I'm watching it on my laptop. It was not finished yet. There were some like special effects shots that were going to be fine-tuned, but you could tell how good it was, even in that unfinished state. So it's kind of cool. So then when you're going, it's like, okay, I really understand the relationship between Deck and his brother, and how that's different from most Yautja, uh, warriors. So that became like an important element of the story.
Do you have any deck figures yet? You were saying you've sort of got figures of like all the characters you've done.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, and have you got Bud to go with them?
Yeah, Bud fell somewhere on the floor. I can't find him right now. I have cats, and my cats seem to think that they could handle Yautjas in the wild, so they knock things over.
We're also both cat people. I seen one of your cats walking around behind you before, and I was
Oh,
just
really?
like, let us see that cat.
There's one lazy one asleep there, and then the other one is probably the one walking.
I said at the top of the show too that you were the writer of Midnight Suns for Marvel, which was a book I didn't realize was only going to be 5 issues. I don't know if that was on
Oh
purpose
no,
or that
that
was the
was
thing.
always the intention. Yeah, yeah. It was a
Um,
miniseries.
because when it came out and I didn't realize there was a going to be more, I was like, oh, because it was such a beautiful book.
Oh, thank you. I've always loved that sort of Ditko-esque cosmic horror, part of the Marvel universe. I've always like my one of my dream projects would be a Doctor Strange something or other.
Mhm.
So the chance to play in those worlds, and I was like, oh well. The funny thing was originally it was going to be a tie-in to a video game, but then the video game got delayed, and so we sort of just ran with our own thing. One thing that we did want to do was make, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it, but make Agatha Harkness young. So she matched up more with the cinematic. So that was like part of it, but not like sort of the main, it was sort of a B story. Um, yeah, but other than that, I could, really play with some fun little parts of the Marvel universe. So it's kind of, I
Is
really
is
enjoyed it.
is there a character apart from Doctor Strange that you would like to take a long stretch at? I know a lot of people sort of step up to the bat to be like, I have a Spider-Man run and don't realize that they're going to be on it for 5 years straight. Looking at you, Dan Slott.
Yeah. I think like the hard reality is that I think it's very hard to get an ongoing
Mhm.
in this day and age. Most of the ongoings I'd love to do are sort of more Star Wars related. I don't know what my cat is doing, but that can't be good. Sorry. I can if I throw a beer can, just so you know, it's actually a foam. This is
Oh,
from Jaws.
yeah.
When he crushes, it's like a stress ball.
Class.
So I'm throwing it at my cat, but just so you know, I'm not completely cruel, and I wouldn't wait. Oh, she stopped. Nope. Okay. There's a box, and apparently that's
Once
like
again,
their
that
equivalent of the Star Wars franchise. Like they're big box fans. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, I don't know. I actually really love writing miniseries, like 4 to 6 issue miniseries, or my first big foray into comics was Old Man Hawkeye at 12, and like that's the perfect length because you can really construct a story, know where it's going to end, how many issues you have. So I kind of like that. I mean, there are characters I'd love to play with. I would got so many. I mean, I love the Flash with DC. That was like my first super as a kid. I love the idea of a Captain America that has to represent this divided country and somehow, um, I, yeah, so many characters I love. I love some of the team. I love Silver Surfer a lot. I got to do an annual with him that was one of the best things I ever got to do. Yeah, I don't so many. But also like if an editor comes to me and says, hey, we want to do this, but like Midnight Suns was not something I pitched. They came
Mhm.
to me. I was like, oh, that would be kind of cool. I actually would have loved to sort of tie it a little bit more into the original 90s lineup and everything, but no complaints. Like it was pretty cool to do in any form.
Have you read Chip Zdarsky's Captain America ongoing at the
Yeah,
minute?
I'm one issue behind, but
Mhm.
yes. Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I would read anything Chip does.
oh yeah, 100%.
He is a
That
fantastic combination of humor and intensity and weirdness and just solid pacing, and like he's just amazing writer.
the first couple of pages from that first issue, where you're sort of dealing with post 9/11 Captain America, was like reading that. I was like, I never thought about this. I never thought this could be a take.
Yeah.
Which you like as yourself, but me and Danny both right as well. It's sort of like you get angry at Chip for being so smart.
Yeah, no, he's just incredible. Just an incredible writer. I mean, there's so many, we often think of, the Silver Age, the Golden Age, all this kind of stuff, the 70s, the 80s with, the rise of the Alan Moores and the, Frank Miller, The Dark Knight, and all this kind of, that's where comics really sort of became more adult. But I honestly feel, especially when you factor in independent comics, like there is just so much talent right now.
Mhm.
And I think in 20 years, people will, be looking at the Kelly Thompsons and the, Chips and just so many people that are just so damn good. And they'll be classics on the bookshelf too.
Well, include yourself, sir. Like I said, it's the top of the show.
I, I've made my peace with my place. The
Um,
Ringo, the Ringo of the, or maybe Pete Best. I don't even know which one.
Ringo had some good singles.
Hey, you know what? He's still
Still
grabbing
going.
some friends and touring, and like,
Mhm.
there's something to it. I'd love to have a career as long as Ringo.
But people should definitely check out the Boba Fett Black, White, and Red trade paperback. By the time this episode drops, it should be coming out s- soon after this.
Yeah,
Um,
I have no idea.
but thank you for joining us, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. This was fun, and I'm still a little annoyed that you didn't bring enough deconstructed burgers for the entire class, but
Mhm.
Next time, it's
I'll
fine.
forgive you. I had to make do with the cereal. This
Yeah.
is what happens.
How does everybody feel about, when you go to a burger place and they give you the option of no bun but lettuce?
I
Uh,
mean that sometimes I do that because I know I'm getting fries and I'm getting like a double.
Hmm.
So like I realize what I'm doing to myself, so I'll do it, but it is not my preference.
Hmm.
mm,
Also, Ethan,
You also don't want the bun to like the bun is not the main attraction, right? It's a supporting character.
true.
mhm.
It's the wedge Antilles of the meal. It's not the Luperhead.
Um, Admiral Akbar's the mayo. I don't know. Uh, do you have you ever been to Ireland?
I've been just to Dublin for the day because my cousin lives part of the year in Belfast, and I was like, I'm so close. I've always wanted to go to Dublin, so my wife and I did a day trip, and it was beautiful and lovely. I would like to go back. Will is at least he's pretending to be polite enough to invite me over, so I will make it at some point. Everything I've seen of it is wonderful and beautiful, and um, yeah,
So you're not
taste.
planning to come over around March time when a certain Charles Soule will also be here for Dublin Comic Con Spring Edition?
I wish I could. I already have some, not this year, but maybe the year next year. There's a
Mhm.
lot going on this year, so my daughter is also graduating. So I think next 2027 for the 25th
Mhm.
anniversary of Attack of the Clones. Um, oh, and a 50th, no, 60th. I can't do math.
50th?
50.
50th,
Mhm.
yes. 50th,
Mhm.
thank you. 50th anniversary of another movie. I can't remember which one.
I wonder what it could
Um,
be.
yeah, so maybe that'll be a good excuse. I'll let
Absolutely.
Charles sort of warm it up for
Mm.
me.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you when you come over, I want to make a promise to you that me and Danny will take you to a kebab shop and get you a
Okay.
kebab with some house
With house
sauce.
sauce, with house
We're
sauce.
we're
Yeah.
pinky promising
There
it.
we go. That's a solemn oath.
Yeah.
Do you know what high
Pink.
sauce is?
No.
Well,
It depends where we go.
depends where we go,
Every
but
every kebab shop has its
Apparently some
own house
mustard in it.
sauce.
oh,
There's some
it's
mustard in it.
Yeah,
it could
mustard,
be
ketchup,
could be every
mayo.
sauce.
Yeah, it could just be a mix of many different
Yeah,
sauces.
I don't get a body like this by saying no to food. So I will. I'm in. You had me at hello.
You're our type of man.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us, Danny. Thank you for joining me as always as my beautiful co-host.
Oh, no problem.
He's just
Um,
angling for some of that burger.
Of course, that's
yeah.
it. He's hoping I'm bringing him some after. Yeah.
Join us next week for more fun and shenanigans in the world of Star Wars. Find us on the Instagrams, the TikToks, the YouTubes, the usual places that people put stuff on. If you're listening to this, you've already found us. Take it that way. But join us next week. We'll see you then. And as always, we have friends everywhere. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I will teach you how to ride. I will teach you. Like a panther. Yes, go, stop. Go, stop. Go, stop. Go, stop. Like a panther. 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 Find other panthers, make baby panthers. You're free to roam the dune sea. Go, like a panther, like a make baby panthers, like a panther, like a panther, like a panther, like a panther, like a panther. Go, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop. Like a panther, 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 like a panther. Find other panthers, make baby panthers. You're free to roam the dune sea. Go, like a find other panthers, like a make baby panthers, like a find other panthers, like a panther. Go, like a find other panthers, like a panther, like a panther, like a panther, like a find other panthers.